Am I the a-hole for not letting my stepmother meet my daughter? Myself, 33, female, and my husband, 38, have a 3-month-old daughter. My stepmother is strictly prohibited from approaching me and my baby, and consequently my father refuses to see his granddaughter without his wife. For context, my stepmother had a clandestine termination in her youth, and had severe complications which left her infertile. When she married my father, she immediately came to see me and my siblings as her children, being very pushy and invasive, and wanting to outdo our mother, who is alive and present in our lives. Even when we were kids, the situation made us uncomfortable, and her obsession with motherhood and being our only mother scared us and drove us away completely. My father, wanting her to be happy, started trying to force us to call her mommy. But eventually our mom got our custody and we moved across the country. Over the years, and a physical distance, my relationship with them became more tolerable. There were occasional problems, such as the fact that she wanted to be mentioned as a mother in the wedding invitations, or when she tried to adopt my niece after my sister-in-law's death, declaring that my brother was unable to raise his daughter. Then before the pandemic, she and my father moved to my state, something common for retirees. She then started posting photos of my ultrasounds and baby clothes, with captions like, "Looking forward to my baby's arrival," or "At last entering the journey of motherhood." I scolded her and demanded that she delete the posts, and that's when the physical harassment began. As we live in the same condominium, she started to come up to my house several times a day to check me, fight with me about what I ate, and set up a complete nursery in her house, telling me that the baby would need to spend the first few days with someone more experienced to take care of him. When we found out it was a girl, she immediately started saying that finally her Christina would come, and our dream would finally come true. I immediately denied that this would be my daughter's name, and made it clear that she would not be a mother figure to my baby. My stepmother then reminded me that a lot can happen during childbirth, and that it was better that my significant other and I understood that she and my father were prepared for any eventuality, and that I couldn't be cruel and deny her the closest thing she'd ever have to a daughter, since I didn't accept being her daughter. After that and other comments and actions, my husband and I decided to take some action in case she tried something. And now, 3 months after my baby was born, my father refuses to visit his granddaughter, even though we live close together, as I don't allow his wife to play mother and daughter with my baby. I understand that she has frustrated maternal instincts, but my daughter is not her replacement baby. So Reddit, am I wrong? Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Not today, Hall. Trust your parental instincts. You're not obligated to humor her. Your father is capable of making his own decisions. Thanks. Her attitude makes me very uncomfortable. And my husband is also worried. My dad says she's just very motherly, and that it's only natural for her to want to become close to the children and the family since she was never able to be a mother. I adore him, but he accuses me of being insensitive and denying my daughter the love of an extra mother. Not today, Hall. Best advice, move away from her. She doesn't care about you. It is clear from the interactions that she has manipulative ways of trying to undermine your choice. She was always like that. I think she resents the fact that my 2 brothers and I never accepted her as our new and only mother, that we preferred to live with our birth mother away from her and my father. She tried to get a surrogate through an agency, but apparently they realized she wasn't very mentally stable. Major not day Hall. Honestly, if possible, I'd consider moving. Hi. Unfortunately, moving is not an attractive option. My husband and I live in a great house, in a gated community, and with an amazing structure for families. Our house is our own, and we buy it without sinking into debt. The most we could do was change the locks, install a fence, and new cameras to prevent surprise visits. My father lives in another house in the same community, and unfortunately doesn't want to leave here, as it's full of benefits for retirees. And now for the update. My husband and I hardly slept that night. Partly because we've been reading your answers, and partly because a 3-month-old baby sleeps little and breastfeeds as much as possible. Thanks to you, I was able to see that my father will never protect his children, especially if it means putting limits on my stepmother. But the big point, the straw that broke the camel's back, was what happened this morning. As I work from home, and my husband owns his own company, we decided to streamline the moving process. What was our surprise to find my stepmother in tears at our gate, properly locked, screaming and begging for my forgiveness, and claiming that all she wanted was love, happiness, and that I have no right to deny anything so small to her. For me, it was like coming out of shock. After threatening to call the police, my father finally came and took his wife home. Immediately, I called my stepfather and he and my mother came to pick us up. I was glad he came as he is a very intimidating man, as well as being a retired police officer. We've packed a few essentials and the three of us will be staying at my mom's house for now. She lives in an apartment with plenty of space and 3 levels of security to allow access. We are in contact with our attorney who will refer to us to someone who specializes in family status, and we will seek to get a restraining order under our old address. P.S. To someone who asked me in private, my sister-in-law's death was caused, according to the police report, by an alleged mechanical failure in her car. At the time, with the whole situation going on with my brother and niece, I never really went into the matter. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for admitting that my parents and niece are the reason I left? I, 29 male, have a niece, 19 female, and as the title says, she and my parents are a massive reason why I moved away. When she was a little kid, she was unbelievably disrespectful and just downright mean. She would literally scream, yell, and if no one was around, she would cuss at me. And occasionally, she would do random crap that she would have never done if my mother, her grandmother, or her parents were around. For example, she would spit, throw stuff, purposely spill stuff, and if I ever stopped her or told her to stop, she would run to grandma and tell her I was being mean, and I would get in trouble. And if I didn't stop her, I would still get in trouble. Then a month before my 18th birthday, I told my parents that I wanted to visit New York City, and they said that was fine. We live in South Carolina if that matters, and my niece's birthday was 2 days before mine. 3 days before my birthday, and 2 before we were supposed to leave, I already got my bags packed, and they saved up, booked the tickets, and were ready to go. The next day, my parents informed me that we couldn't go, because they had planned a huge surprise party for my niece, but they miscalculated or something, and it was a lot more expensive than they thought. If I remember correctly, it was about $6,000, so they used the money that they saved for the trip on the party. When I asked them why they couldn't just cancel it instead, they got mad and my dad said I was being an entitled brat, and my mom said I was being selfish for not wanting my niece to enjoy her special day. Well, they didn't cancel it, but instead moved it back by 2 days due to some kind of schedule mix-up. I was honestly tired with their bull, so I moved to New York and went to college there, and that's where I stayed. And now I'm an attorney with 2 amazing sons. About 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call from an uncle about a family reunion. It was a couple of days ago. I thought it would be nice for my sons to meet some of their family members, as if I recall correctly, the only people they know are the people who moved up to New York, which is a couple of my cousins and my younger brother. So we went, and when I saw my niece, she acted the same as she did before. Later in the evening, my aunt asked why I moved to New York. My mother answered for me, saying that it was so I could go to college. I found it unbelievably amusing that she thought after all these years that was the reason, so I started laughing uncontrollably. My mother asked why I was laughing, so I told her that NYU wasn't one of the reasons why I left, and it was because they were crappy parents who loved and cared about their crappy granddaughter more than their son, and my niece was, and still, is the perfect combination between a crotch goblin, a brat, and a turd stain. My mother called me an ungrateful, disrespectful brat, and my brother and sister-in-law were pissed. I was a little pissed myself, so I just left. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And great timing before niece invited herself to visit New York City now that she's an adult. Right. OP, you did the right thing by going away, and now you've had a confirmation that you should stay away. Not the a-hole. The only issue here is the delay. Couldn't you have told them sooner what you thought about their parenting? That putting your niece first and their son second was a failure in itself. Glad you got your life together. I brought it up in the past many times. My father would just shrug it off, and my mother would always say that I was acting/talking silly. When I confront my mom about horrible toxic stuff, not labeling it like that but clearly spelling it out what she did to her, she also likes to say I'm not making any sense or being ridiculous. It means you're freaking right, but they don't understand why you won't just roll over and take it like you're supposed to. Everyone sucks here, but only because of the way you phrased it. If you'd have said something like, I actually left because I couldn't put up with my niece's behavior, and everyone else happily enabling that behavior at the expense of my happiness and well-being, then it would have been a clear-cut not a-hole. But the phrasing you used there wasn't necessary in my humble opinion. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister the truth? I, 25 female, took my sister, 16, to coffee on Friday to catch up and spend time together. All was well until she began telling me how much she hated spending time with me as a kid. She exclaimed how all that I cooked for her was Kraft dinner, boxed mac and cheese, every day, and that she hates it now. She added about how I was so bossy and never played with her, etc. The initial remark was whatever, but the constant poking fun at me really got to me, and I corrected her. I told her that I was 9 years old when she was born, and I had to take care of her because my mom didn't come home every night. I told her that I was 10 years old trying to figure out how to change diapers from reading the Huggies box. How I was cooking her Kraft dinner every day because I was 11 and she was hungry. My mom had a really bad addiction problem, and we were taken away when I was 14 and my sister was 5, and both given to our dads. We have different ones. They never told her the details, so it was only her memory that was so hard for me. I had been raising her for 5 years, and I felt like she was my own. I told her that I'm sorry I did a poor job raising her, and no, it wasn't fun or enjoyable, but I was just a kid too. Part of me didn't want to shatter whatever childlike memory she had about our lives together, but it was too much to carry, and to also be made fun of for it. She was super nice about it, and honestly, we bonded a lot since then and actually talk again. Then I found out that her stepmother had been lying to her about contacting me to see her, and telling her I don't reply. I've never been contacted to see my sister. She said she was confused by her memories, but it made more sense now and that she loved me. 2 days later, our mom, who is 5 years sober now, called me screaming about how I got my sister taken from me because I was jealous that she got more attention and I was trying to ruin my mother's life. I told her that I'm not the one who called CPS. My sister's father was, and she just kept screaming and saying that I had no right to dump that on your sister. She has custody of my sister again just this year. Am I the a-hole for outing how terrible our childhood was? I would have loved for my sister to not be hurt or affected by it, but I couldn't bear the blame I was getting. Was it selfish? I thought she'd be old enough to hear the gist of it. Now for the comments. There's an old saying that when you sober up a drunken jerk, the result is a sober jerk. If you need someone and want to say you weren't wrong, I'll be that person. Your mother made you responsible for her parenting duties when you were a child, and now she's trying to scapegoat you for her mistakes. That won't wash. Not an a-hole. Good on you for being there for your sister as best you could when you were younger, and for mending bridges with her now. Yeah, it is really difficult having crappy parents and having to deal with their BS and drama as a child. Not an a-hole. Your sister deserves to know the truth about her childhood because no doubt she has been affected by it, even if she doesn't remember it. I'm the little sister in your scenario, and it took a long time for me to process through therapy, and I'm still working on it 15 years later. But I couldn't have done that if I didn't understand what happened. You did the right thing. Your mom is just taking her guilt out on you. I'd like to amend this. The mom is taking out her shame on Opie. Guilt suggests she feels remorse. Shame is when she feels bad because of others' perception of her, rather than her perception of herself. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not taking my husband to my brother-in-law's funeral after he went against my sister's wishes? My sister's husband was sick for over 6 months. In the past couple of months, he got worse. They have 2 kids, nephew 4 and niece 6. So I agreed to take the kids in to look after them and help my sister focus on her husband. A week ago, I got a call at 6:50 from my sister crying, telling me her husband just passed away. It was so devastating. I was still in bed when I got the news. I checked on the kids and they were asleep. I had to go see my sister and be with her, so I asked my husband to keep an eye on the kids and warned him not to tell them about their father's passing till their mom gets there and tell them herself in her own way, since she made me promise to wait until she tells them herself. He nodded, but said telling them the sooner the better. I told him it was none of his business, and he needed to respect their mother's wish. He said I could go, and he'd watch the kids. An hour later, my phone rang while I was with my sister, and it was my husband telling me to get home ASAP because the kids had a breakdown after he told them their father passed. I was dumbfounded and so mad and helpless. I asked why he told them, but I couldn't hear his reply because the kids were crying loudly in the background. Their mother heard and figured they found out, and she told me to drive her to see them. I apologized for what my husband did, but she didn't respond. We got home and it was a mess. My heart sank seeing the kids crying for their dad like that. Their mom took them inside a room and shut the door. I lost it on my husband. And he said he didn't want to say anything, even made them breakfast. But when he heard kids talk about what they were going to do when they see their dad soon, he felt the urge to tell them. I yelled at him for going against my sister's wishes. He apologized to my sister, but she said she doesn't want to see him because the kids stopped talking from their trauma. He wanted to go to the funeral, but I told him my sister doesn't want to see him and I'm respecting her wish. He got upset, saying I excluded him from family event, which was unfair and flat out petty. He said he couldn't help it, so I shouldn't hold him accountable because it just happened. But I felt ashamed and a major letdown for my sister because she stated her wishes and he didn't respect them. Not day-haul at all. Do not take the responsibility for your spouse's acts onto yourself. You clearly expressed your sister's wishes. He made the choice to go directly against them. Your sister had every right to not want contact at all with him after that. Who knows how the kids would have responded or been more traumatized seeing him again. You're not petty. You are trying to love and respect and support your sister in her time of grief. Yes, I agree, but he's been giving me grief about how harsh I was towards him. That I should have let him attend a funeral with me, completely ignoring the fact he went against my sister's wishes, and she rightfully wants some space from him. It's not about you. None of this is about you. On repeat until he gets it. What kind of narcissistic prick thinks he should be the one to break this kind of news to children when their mother is effectively on her way over to do that very thing? Not day-haul. Now your husband wants to show up and cause drama with a widow at a funeral? Is he crazy? You need to take a very hard line with this guy. And it's not a family event. It's a funeral and he's an A.
Am I the a-hole if I told my husband I wanted a divorce after he made fun of how many pants I tried on? Plus update. Original post. I, 30 female, had a baby 8 weeks ago via a traumatic birth. 10 plus hours of active labor, super high fever, emergency C-section, and my son didn't breathe for 8 minutes after coming out. I told my husband, 37 male, that I had no birth plan, and I just wanted us all to get out of the hospital alive and healthy. However, I did have a very specific plan for the first 40 days postpartum that involved eating specific Chinese foods, limiting outings, and not being cold or in the wind. I told him it was very important to me culturally and for my healing. While I was pregnant, which also had its complications, I meal prepped and froze a lot of food that I just asked him to heat up, add vegetables to, and make rice. I wrote recipes down for him. He said, "I got you, baby." He, in fact, did not have me. I spent the first 2 weeks postpartum sleeping on the couch because I couldn't get in and out of bed after my surgery, doing the whole night shift by myself every night, and not eating anything besides the fast food he would bring home, or I would end up cooking for us. He told me that staying inside for 40 days was stupid, so by day 10 we were going out. I know that I should have said no, but I was too tired to argue. We went to the beach on day 14, and when we got there, there were 35 miles per hour winds. My husband said, "Let me just fish for a little and we can go." But he disappeared down the beach with the car keys for 3 hours while the baby and I sat in the wind. On day 16, he invited his sister to stay with us for a week. So I had to vacate the couch and climb in and out of our bed, still taking the whole night shift. His sister had a very similar surgery, hysterectomy, earlier this year, and was telling my husband and me about the risk of hernias after a surgery like ours. This was after both of them sat on the couch and watched me haul laundry to and from the garage while they watched TV. She also demanded that we eat certain foods while she was here that she can't get back home, and my husband door-dashed whatever she wanted to the house and or drove us all to go get food that she wanted. Meanwhile, I couldn't get him to heat up frozen food for me. She also told us about the importance of scar care after the surgery and suggested that I get a C-section massage. Any place I found was over $200, and I texted my husband saying I felt guilty spending that much money on something so selfish. He changed the subject and didn't address my text at all. I felt so incredibly hurt by this. I don't know if it was hormonal or what, but him not saying anything to me when I said I felt guilty for wanting to do something nice for myself made me feel so unloved and insignificant. Especially because after his sister had her surgery, he talked to me about wanting to send her $10,000 of our savings to help her out with medical bills. And he didn't even acknowledge, let alone offer to pay for, a $200 massage for me. After I was cleared for regular physical activity at 6 weeks, I asked him if it would be okay if I spent 30 minutes a day in our garage working out. He agreed and said he would watch the baby for me. The next day, when I asked him to hold the baby for me while I worked out, he took my son and put him in the baby Bjorn. The baby started crying halfway through, and I had to finish my workout while wearing the baby. He told me while I was pregnant that it was a non-negotiable for him to continue going to the gym 3 times a week, and he started going back in week 4 from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., leaving me with the baby and having to figure out dinner. The last straw for me was yesterday. I had been with the baby all night and all morning, and he wanted to go get lunch, so I asked him to watch the baby so I could get dressed. I was taking longer than usual to get ready, and he snarkily said to the baby, "Mom's gotta try on 6 more pairs of pants before we can leave." And I lost it on him. I screamed, "Nothing fits me because I just had a freaking baby, and I don't get to work out at all." I told him I freaking hate him, and that he should go to his parents' house or sleep on the couch or whatever. Just leave me alone. He shook his head at me like I was being irrational, and I felt such rage inside me. How could he not see that I was dying? I spent the night Googling divorce lawyers, and I feel like I'm overreacting. Now for the top comments before reading the update. If anything, you're underreacting. He's worse than useless. Isn't it crazy when you think, this guy is useless? And then, actually he's worse. Yes, like not only is not being of any use, but he's actually making more work for her. Having him gone would be much easier. OP, do you work or are you a stay-at-home mom? Does he financially support the entire family with his work alone? I just finished grad school 4 months before I had the baby. But before that, I worked in pharmaceutical chemistry and had a decent savings. I paid my half for our mortgage and bills, but I didn't have any extra money for fun stuff like going out to eat, coffee or dates or home improvement things, so he would pay for everything else. I am supposed to start a new job at the beginning of August. That man has shown you repeatedly that he can't be trusted to support you. You would be better off as a single mom than trying to get him to change, because men like that never get better, they only get worse. Not the a-hole. My ex once went hiking with a friend and left me alone with a 4-month-old while I had a pretty serious case of the flu. That was only the beginning. Notice I said ex? These guys just don't get it, don't want to get it, and should never marry in the first place. You are not overreacting. You aren't dragging it out for over 20 years like I did. That's the type of wisdom I did not have. He gets it. He just doesn't care. That article was depressing AF. Edit/mini update. For clarification, we talked after every incident, and he said he genuinely feels bad about how he behaved and has been spending more time with the baby with every talk. I fully know that I'm a doormat and have been working on it with my therapist, and it was really hard for me to even express my postpartum needs to him. He does financially support us and has spent a lot of money on baby gear and gadgets that helped make nights and feeding easier for me. Bottle washer, nice herb pump, bottles, etc. Since the beach day, he's greatly decreased our outings with the baby. He has also been holding the baby at night for a couple of hours from 9 p.m. to whenever he goes to bed so I can sleep. He's also been on paternity leave this whole time. Also, I don't have any family I can stay with right now, and my friends have all recently moved out of state. We talked this morning, and he said that I'm punishing him for things that happened months ago, and that it's unfair that I won't forgive him or recognize his support in other ways. He said that I'm the problem, and that I always need someone to be angry with. I brought up his sister, and he dismissed it as me needing to compare my life with other people. I told him I feel like I ask for so little and that he's not listening to me. And he said I just fixate on everything he doesn't do. I just feel so unseen. He said he would love to give me time to go do things I want to do, except you don't have any hobbies. He asked, if I gave you 2 hours right now, what would you go do? And I said I have to clean the bathrooms and do laundry. He said I'm allowed to treat him like crap when I'm hungry and sleepy, and he always forgives me. I do get very standoffish and short when I am both hungry and sleepy, but I can't forgive him for something he did so long ago. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my partner he needs to live on his own? My partner, 40 male, has been staying at my house, 42 female, for the past week. Last night, the topic of living together came up. He said the only fair way to split bills is to go 50-50 on everything. We both earn similar amounts, so fair enough. So I brought up the topic of splitting household chores. His response was, I'm much slower than you, so I'll do the kitchen. You can handle the rest. It takes him 2 hours to clean the dishes, and a further 2 hours to wipe surfaces and clean the floor. I suggested he needs to learn to do it faster. His response was, I do it at my pace. I won't be going quicker. I pointed out that it's not a fair division if I'm paying half the bills and doing 90% of the chores. So I suggested I'll do 90% of the household chores and pay 10% of the bills. He's now complaining that it's not fair and that I only want him for his money. His family's telling me he's just a bit slower at doing that stuff and I should deal with it. I've now told him that I won't even consider living with him until he's lived on his own for at least a year and can prove he can look after himself. He's never lived independently, always with his parents, a partner, or housemates. I'm now being called an a-hole because I've said I'm not being used for free labor. So, am I the a-hole? This is what every woman's response should be when a man tries to move in with her and take over her space. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. 4 hours to clean a kitchen and do no other chores is weaponized incompetence. If he can't pay 50-50 and do 50-50 on chores, do not live with him. No one needs to take care of a grown-up child. And there is a third option here. If he sucks so much as basic household tasks, he can hire out for his half. Problem solved. But he is not looking to be fair. He is looking to profit off of OP's labor. He can move at whatever pace he wants, doing 50% of the chores. My thoughts exactly. He doesn't have to move at any pace he's not comfortable with. He just needs to agree to dividing the household chores equally. If he can't do that, he's not mature enough to be in an equal partnership with someone. He wants a mother, not a partner, someone who both helps to support him and cleans up after him. So let him stay at home and let mommy do what she's always done. It's not fair to expect someone to take on half of the financial responsibility and most of the household responsibility. That's not an equal partnership, and quite frankly, it's worse than a relationship where someone expects to do things the old-fashioned way. Women who used to handle all of the household duties were supported by men who handled all of the financial ones. In my mind, today's men are far worse than 100 years ago if they're still expecting a woman to do a woman's job at home, as well as half of their job on top of it. And yes, ditto for those women who expect to be supported financially and with household duties. However roles get divided, there needs to be equal contribution. OP, if he's not willing to change, you two will never be happy living together, and your relationship is doomed to eventually fail. Cut your losses. Grieve what could have been if he had chosen to be an adult. I know it hurts to leave someone you love, but know you're doing the right thing for your future. If you can't come together in this as equals, you will only come to resent each other and be unhappy. Next story. My husband jokes about divorce every time we fight, and it's destroying me. Whenever we argue about money, housework, anything, my husband, 33 male, will throw out, maybe we should just get a divorce then, like it's a mic drop. He says it sarcastically, with a smirk like he doesn't mean it. But it's every time, and every time it chips away at me. We've been married for 2 years and together for 6. I've never once said something like that in an argument. I fight to fix things, not to hurt him. but he keeps using the D word like it's a punchline, and I can't unhear it. I told him how damaging it is, and he just said, "You know I'm joking. Why are you so sensitive?" At what point do jokes stop being jokes? When they're repeated? When they hit something raw? I'm honestly starting to believe he means it on some level. I don't know if I should ignore it or if this is something deeper. Has anyone dealt with this? Now for the comments. Start agreeing with him and see what happens. I don't think he's joking. I think he's doing it to end the discussion. Then he gets to keep doing whatever he wants, and he doesn't have to actually do anything or keep having the discussion. I think he's hoping it's hurtful or frustrating enough that eventually he'll stop bringing issues up, and he can go about his day without having to moderate his behavior in any way. Absolutely, he's trying to train her never to raise any concerns with him. I think she should do what he wants. Let her divorce attorney talk to him from now on. Yup, this is 100% a manipulation tactic. Super common for emotional abusers to use this one. My rule is that if you think you might want to divorce me, then the relationship is already broken, and we either need immediate couples counseling to fix whatever is broken, or we need to break up. In most cases, these guys are saying it to hurt and control you, so counseling isn't a good idea. So my rule is, if you say you want a divorce, then I'm going to give you one. If you wanted to work on the problems in the relationship, you should try to do that before you get to the point where you're dropping the D word. It's totally a manipulation tactic, also used to escalate the conversation to an unreasonable place that instantly dismisses the original concern. Suddenly, the conversation is about trying to walk back from exploding your life instead of about why husband doesn't know the pediatrician's name. Anytime you start asking yourself if it's worth it to raise a legit concern because the response will be extreme, red flag. Last story. I found out why my partner of 5 years hasn't proposed to me yet. My partner, 30 male, and I, 25 female, have been together for 5 years. We have lived together for 4. We are very much in love, we have a home and pets together, and I have no complaints about our relationship. I really am happy with him, and we have great chemistry. We have talked about engagement and marriage before. Personally, I'm not too set on marriage right now, but I do like the idea of at least getting engaged and having a ring. Whenever I would bring the topic up, he would get really avoidant and make a joke or try to change the subject. It was confusing to me, considering we have had this talk before and he wants to be with me forever. But I finally found out why. He told me that he wants to have kids and wants to ensure that the person he marries also wants kids. I do not want kids. We had multiple discussions about it afterward, but never actually came to any sort of agreement. He basically thinks I'm going to change my mind in the future since I'm still young. And I don't say anything is impossible, but I'm pretty sure I won't change my mind. I know what goes into motherhood and raising a child, and I honestly just don't think it's for me. Also, I have a career that having a kid would really hinder. Since we never came to any conclusion, I'm pretty sure he's just willing to wait and spend as much time as he can with me until he's ready to start a family and see if I've changed my mind or not, and that's when we'll make an actual decision. But I can't help but have this mental block, knowing eventually this is probably going to end, and as much as I don't want it to, this just isn't something either of us should have to sacrifice. I totally respect him for wanting to be a father, and I would never want him to give that up to be with me, which he has kind of hinted at before. So, I'm really torn. I don't know what to do. It would of course break my heart to break up at any point. But is this something we need to decide now? Or should we wait it out? Has anyone else been in this position? Also, I want to mention that he's very set on not breaking up anytime soon. I also don't want to break up, of course, but I agree with some of you saying that it's not fair to either of us. I would prefer if he made that decision and not me. But I know he won't, so it's a hard position for me, considering how deeply involved we are. Time to end it. You want fundamentally different lives. Stop wasting each other's time. It will be painful but best for both of you. Don't have a child for someone else, and don't be the reason someone else doesn't have a child. Yep, the relationship has run its course. Time to move on. Let the man find someone with similar goals. Just pull the plug. break up now, or it'll lead to far more resentment and pain down the road. I think you already know the answer. Your issue is perhaps how to open and frame the discussion in such a way that the "let's talk about this later" option is off the table. You don't want to talk about timing. You want to talk about whether to have kids or not. To help, I'd suggest raising the question of having your tubes tied now, regardless of whether or not you actually wish to proceed with this step. This could be an effective way of setting the discussion up in the terms you feel good with, and actually broaching your issue in terms which you can, timing as your partner see it.